Hey guys, it's Optimus Primal. We're back with another video, and today we are starting part 2 of our reviews for all 4 Transformers movies in light of Transformers The Last Knight coming out next week. Now, going back and watching this one, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, it's one of those movies you can tell really suffers from the writer's strike. So a lot of like the story plots are rushed, and a lot of things move quickly that don't seem to move very coherently. But the action sequences, I think, in a lot of ways, make up for it in some aspects.
Aside from the fact that the action sequences are hard to follow because they're so close up. Besides that,
yeah. So going back and now watching this one again, what were your thoughts on?
Well, after watching the first one and remembering Revenge of the Fallen, but hadn't not gone back to see it again, I thought I was going to hate it. I didn't hate it. There were probably bits of the second one that I liked better than the first one, where there were some good family moments, where there were really just awkward family moments in the first one. Really, almost every single character is awkward in the first one, but again, in the second one, there were parts of the second one that I did like better. Like, Sam seemed to have grown up a bit. He did have his freakouts, as is Sam. Some of the bots were a little bit more likable
well,
in some ways, and others
we'll get to
not
the bots.
So much.
We'll get to the bots, but
I
think Sam's character had some growing moments, but like it was still like Shia LaBeouf, just like he talks a million miles a minute. And you're trying to follow what he's saying, and he's so busy trying to get the lines out that you're like,
and the high-pitched screaming is completely unnecessary. As a male,
drove me nuts.
Even as a female, high-pitched screaming is not necessary.
No, and he gets a new college roommate because he goes to college, and it's because it's been 2 years.
Leo.
And Leo, he is so annoying.
He also had moments where he wasn't too bad. He was funny.
No, he was annoying.
But
he was
especially the parts where
he went to the William Shatner school of overacting. Like, I mean, like he just like
where
his
there was
facial
just
expressions
that was unnecessary, and over sweating and just
I mean, there was the overboard moments that like. I mean, I guess maybe he's grown up since now he's in
Luke Cage.
Iron
Fist.
He was in Iron Fist, and it was like, going back and watching Revenge of the Fallen again, and seeing him there, and I'm just like, man, was he annoying back then? The other thing, it had some really, the whole movie had some like weird moments of like unnecessary like. People getting their pants pulled down.
Happened 3 times. There were 3 pantsing moments. Micheal, John Turturro, and then Leo.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Like did not need to see like every like I don't. This is where like this movie shows why Transformers gets a bad reputation for
very
potty
immature.
Humor. Like really bad potty humor. Like the first movie had the masturbation joke, and this one now has like, John Turturro in a thong, and then like, Leo with his pants down, talking about like so many
poop in the middle of a museum, and they say this is a family museum. It's supposed to be a family movie, so why are you making the joke?
Well, it's not a family movie, but it's like
it's kind of supposed to be a family movie.
It's supposed to be like Transformers was always aimed at kids, and yet this movie like seems like we're aiming at kids.
Kids that were kids when 1986 movie came out, so now they're all adults.
So like and then the other thing is like, which like I said when we get to the bots is like they have a lot of stereotypes like that happen like even in the first movie with the Indian joke with them talking on the cell phone like, no, I don't need a deluxe package or whatever, and the guy's like, you don't need to yell or something like that. And then this movie has a lot of stereotypes and stuff like that, like the college prep boys. There is the tight shirt.
We checked for the tighter shirt.
I think there was a joke back in the back then in 2009. I don't know if it still is relevant like now thinking about it like was 8 years ago. Although I do think that like this movie did have like you were saying before was like a lot of family moments
Yeah, it was all towards the end, though.
Yeah, because like
last half hour.
It was like I didn't like the they're crying, like that Sam's mom's crying over losing his her son going to college, and
some moms, I'm sure there's plenty moms like that.
But then at the end there was a really emotional scene with the parents because they realize they need to run, and like that like was probably one of the best scenes in the movie, like family wise, because like it actually showed like they actually care about each other, and there's actual
ties there.
Yeah, where before it was like everything was just super awkward. Instead this actually like
if that were to occur, that's what feels like it would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
There would be a lot of crying and terror and running and I don't know, chasing after your child.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
make sure they're safe.
I think the one story plot that kind of like now thinking about it back and retrospectively is that like thinking about how Micheal is trying to get Sam to say "I love you," and throughout the whole movie she's basically trying to get him to say it, or she's ready to break up with him, which is kind of fickle if you really think about it. But like they've been together for now 2 years since like that's how long it's been since
it's a high school male.
So it was a matter of like like the boy wants to try and like I don't want to say it if it does, I don't really mean it kind of thing, and I get that, but now thinking about it,
he wanted her to say it first because he was afraid if he said it first that she would run, and she was afraid if she said it first that he would run. But seriously, at that point, you both know that you love each other. Just freaking say it.
I know. But that's what I mean. Like, now thinking about it retrospectively, going into the third movie, knowing what we know, it's like, it's kind of annoying, that plot point, because it didn't connect.
It was just at the beginning and the end. It wasn't like through the entire movie.
The line of itself, like even the whole...
But they said it at the end, so that's all that matters. Yeah. And it was cute. It was like, oh, nice.
So now let's go into the actual like robots themselves. I mean, not they now I think they actually did focus on the robots a little bit more in this movie.
Yeah, they did seem to focus on the robots a bit more. You saw Ironhide, Bumblebee, and Optimus a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Ironhide is the first Autobot seen in the movie. Like, he's the first Autobot who transforms, and that he's like spending his time with with the military organization, which now is called Nest, mm-hmm. because the Transformers have a connection now with the government, which
Autobots, to hunt Decepticons,
to stop them from actually doing what they were doing before, which was try to take over the world or universe, for that matter. And then something that's really that really annoyed me in this movie was that they had like the envoy from the presidential envoy comes in, mm-hmm. and he wants to take over the whole operation because it's a new president, and the new president doesn't like the alien alien presence there. And this is again like really looking at politics throughout 2007 now through 2009, and the new president doesn't like the arrangement that the previous president had with the Transformers and wants to end the whole operation and tell the Transformers to leave. Well, Megatron is dead, so you should just leave. And it's like, well, they're still here. And
right. I think his thoughts were that the only thing they're hunting is they're not hunting anything now that the cube is gone. They're hunting you, and the Autobot presence is what is allowing and continuing to keep the Decepticons there. Which I understood better this time watching it.
But I still think that you don't see the mess that's still there. The mess is still there. We need to finish what we started, and that kind of like still again like it brings the politics of 2009 back to light.
It makes it relevant, though. It makes it relevant to the time that we're in.
Yeah,
that we were in 2009.
It also is interesting because there's a lot more Transformers introduced. You have Sideswipe. Now, he's awesome. he's awesome. Like, I loved the car. The only thing I didn't like, I mean, obviously, like, I think that the Transformers should be the color of their G1 counterparts. There's not both Ironhide should have been red, Sideswipe should have been red. And, Ironhide is black because the vehicle is black, and then the Corvette that they used for Sideswipe is silver. And they made his appearance different. They gave him, like, these roller blades. But he was awesome with the blades. Like, I really liked him as a movie Transformer. I think he's probably one of the most well designed, like, for the second movie. Like, it was just really cool. And then they had that big Decepticon that transformed from the power shovel with the giant sized wheels. It's tearing up Shanghai.
Yeah, that was a strange one.
It was a strange looking robot, but I think it was a neat, one-off Decepticon. I just still think that, like, their robot faces are too
so strange.
Like, everything is just mangled metal.
Yeah.
Like that robot's face, Sideswipe's face, all the new Transformers that they introduced. I don't like what they did with RC.
No.
I know RC is like your favorite character, so it's like...
It was female favorite. But the fact that there was 3 of them, they were 3 different colors, they never were combined, they were supposed to be one, but it didn't make any sense for there to be 3 bots, 3 different colors, but they're one robot? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And they didn't get any time, they didn't really get to talk much at all. They didn't have a character. Yeah. There's no characterization.
The only new characters that they really spent a lot of times introducing was Mudflap and Skids. The ice cream truck that comes in, and they're super annoying. I couldn't stand them. Like, when they were like, I liked the idea of, like, okay, it's one ice cream truck that splits in 2, and then I liked the fact that they upgraded into new cars, but their characters
clearly car placement for a car ad.
Which, that's something that we didn't talk about in the last movie, was that, like, Michael Bay was trying to get cars for for the movies, and no car company but GM would allow the cars to actually be used in the Transformers movie. And so Chevy was just like, hey, the Camaro is now famous. I mean, you can't think of a Camaro now without thinking about Bumblebee.
No, yeah. Every time you see it, even if it's a different color.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see yellow with black stripes, you're like, oh, it's Bumblebee.
Yeah.
If you see one, you're like, oh, it's Bumblebee that's black, or oh, it's Bumblebee is red. Like, you
exactly.
think of the movies.
Yeah.
Like, that was really smart on their part.
So Chevy, like, they had these 2 new little cars that came out, and the 2 little cars.
Bolts?
That's
now.
I forgot what they were called. Well, Jolt was the actual Chevy Volt, which never actually took off. So because the car failed, they decided to kill off the character basically in the background. And then the 2 new cars or whatever that they were promoting were Mudflap and Skids. But the thing is that the characters were like a racial stereotype.
Yeah.
They were doofus-looking faces. One had gold teeth, or one gold tooth, and they were just wildly beyond annoying, just to be annoying.
Poor stereotype, but yeah, they were very, very annoying and kind of unnecessary. I mean, if you're gonna introduce new characters to a show, great. Or a movie, that's great, but make them relevant, make them needful. They didn't need to be there. They were supposed to be, I think they were supposed to be comedy relief, but they weren't funny. And the only times actually they were funny was when they were interacting with Leo and making fun of him.
Yeah.
That was like the only time they were funny.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean,
because
otherwise
Leo
they were just
needed
annoying.
it. Leo needed someone to make fun of him.
But actually they kind of pushed him too a little bit. Which I guess in that sense they were good, but because they were making fun of how cowardly he would get, and they were like, they would kind of call him out on it and make fun of his hair and call him a chia pet.
Which, that's something that's kind of interesting, because when I did have hair, they used to call me chia pet because that's what my hair looked like. So the plot is that with the Decepticons actually, basically they're being hunted by the Autobots. They talk about how the Fallen will rise again. And the Autobots Obviously they have a new slew of characters, and they're working with the government. They're not liked by the government, yet the Decepticons are trying to, revive Megatron, and trying to find out where he is, where the shards for the Allspark are. And eventually they do find out where Megatron is. They revive him, and they go to bring the Fallen to Earth to make this sun harvester actually destroy the sun. Now, overall, I mean, like, the one thing that I was kind of interesting is that Sam's going to college now, and he doesn't want to be involved with the Transformers anymore. He wants to have a normal life. I mean, he even wants to tell Bumblebee to go back, which that's something that bothered me, that Bumblebee was talking at the end of the first movie, and he's not able to talk anymore. He still has voice problems. Like, why does he have voice problems?
Especially when the cube could have
repaired him. It repaired Frenzy, but it didn't repair Bumblebee's voice box. But yet it did.
Killed Megatron, and then it brought him back to life.
Yeah,
that's another oddity.
And the one thing that's like that like we were talking about before was that Sam actually. Since he wants to have that normal life, Optimus is like, hey, I want you to be a liaison to me, with...
Alien, alien ambassador.
Which kind of is a throwback to him back in the third season when he's an adult and he's married, and now he's an ambassador. When he was Spike, Spike was an ambassador in the third season, so... that was kind of interesting, but like you were saying, like you thought that maybe that the way that he like rejected the idea was kind of selfish of him.
Well, I kind of saw it both ways, that it was selfish because he could have helped. He had the background, he had the knowledge of Transformers and the Autobots, but at the same time, I can understand he wanted to live a normal life. He had his entire world thrown upside down. I mean, he just wanted to go to college and enjoy those 4 years. So I saw it both ways. It seemed selfish, but then when I thought about it, I could see why it maybe was because, I mean, he got thrown back into it regardless.
Yeah.
It literally became his fight because Optimus died protecting him.
Yeah, which here is Optimus Death number 365. I mean, Optimus dies, like he died in the original movie, he died like in the comics, he died here, he died there, and so now Optimus dies again. And the other thing that they drew from the comics with this was that Sam picks up the piece of the Allspark, and all of a sudden all these symbols start going into his head. So the Allspark itself actually transferred into Sam's mind. Yeah. And in doing so, that's a drawback to if you read the original comics, when Optimus was ahead, he actually took he had Buster, who was Spike's brother later in the comics, but it was actually Sam's character is based on both Buster and Spike. So the Allspark, or the Matrix, goes into Buster's mind, and Buster is actually able to disassemble Jetfire, put Jetfire back together, and then is able to control him. And that's something that was kind of neat, that they drew back to the comics with the Allspark going into his mind. And then at the end of the movie, when they actually get the Matrix of Leadership, they drew into the third season with Rodimus Prime going into the Matrix, and he actually talks to the Primes. So that was a drawback to there. And then the next correlation is that the Allspark energy transfers into the Matrix. So he's no longer seeing symbols because all of that energy is now within the Matrix of Leadership and is used to revive Optimus Prime. But then the Fallen comes in. And he comes in and he's like, now I can revive the machine, but Optimus is alive. And we didn't talk about Jetfire yet. Jetfire's character comes in midway through the movie, and he's this old geriatric character.
Sounds like a little bit of a pirate too.
It was.
Has a cane.
I think it was more of a British,
wannabe.
Yeah.
Wannabe pirate, British old man.
Says this planet dirt. I mean, everything is falling. And he's not able to put himself back together, and then he just does things just because he's doing it, and he does a space bridge to Egypt out of nowhere and flies in. Then he actually joins the last battle. Speaking of the last battle, there are a bunch of characters that came back to life that were dead in the first movie. I mean, they said that the helicopter in the fight in the forest was, from what I've read, his name is Grindor, whereas the character in the first movie was Blackout. But it's the same exact helicopter. So if you're watching it not knowing a thing but only watching the movies, you're like, oh, the helicopter guy is back? And how did he get revived? Yet Optimus takes his face off. I mean, in the first movie he took Bone Crusher's face off. Second movie he takes off Grinder's face. And then
give me your face.
He just has an obsession with people's faces, and I mean, he even blasts Megatron's. He even blasts Megatron's face half off.
I don't know.
But Scorponok comes back, and
he has his tail again.
Yeah.
I didn't know they could regrow. I mean, I get maybe he literally took the whole form. I think that's... I really don't know much about scorpions, but maybe they can regrow their tails, and maybe when he took the form, he could regrow his tail because it was taken in the first movie.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Perhaps. But Jetfire crushes his head, and then Bone Crusher, who was killed by Optimus in the first movie, is back, and he kills RC. And so you're sitting there going wait, these characters are back? And the other thing that didn't make sense was the Constructicons. They introduced the Constructicons, they're the ones who revived Megatron along with the little doctor. And that doctor was kind of funny. I liked that it was chop, chop, we need to get his brain chopped off. Put the brain on the table. I thought that was really funny. But the Constructicons themselves, they're in the battle, and you see Mixmaster, you see Long Haul, they're all battling. Hey guys, we're back. The video cut out yesterday, and we didn't realize it until I was in the middle of editing it, that we had lost pretty much the last half of the footage that we recorded. So she had went and got her hair done, and so here we are. We're next day. Obviously, we're in different clothes, and we're going to continue on with this review. Now, what I was talking about before was the Constructicons themselves. They were in the battle, in the final battle, and yet the Constructicons themselves that merged to form Devastator are different Decepticons.
They also, their whole transforming thing was very strange. With all the tendrils, everything's got tendrils. I thought it was very odd.
Well, it isn't so much that. It was what bothered me about Devastator. First of all, he's just a monstrosity. He's got this big giant mouth, right? And it's just it's just made out of Mixmaster. It's just made out of the
face was weird too.
Yeah, the face was weird. Everything about him was weird. And then of course, during the battle itself, he's climbing up the the pyramid. And what does Simmons say? Which obviously is one of the crude jokes that they always talk about, is Devastator's.
Oh yeah.
The wrecking balls are underneath the legs. And so so then the other thing that kind of was annoying was he eats Mudflap, but yet he doesn't. Mudflap punches his way out.
He goes through that whole mouth strange, I don't even know, sucking thing, and he should have been dead. I don't understand how he lived through that. I mean, maybe they didn't want another death, but at that point, there was 8,000 deaths.
Yeah, he's killing off different.
Why did he?
He's killing off
need to live.
Exactly. And everything about him just kind of annoyed me. What he looked like. A lot of people were complaining about the colors of vehicles that they used. I wish he looked more. Again, this is a big complaint about the movies, is that they just look like mangled metal, and instead of looking even resembling some form or fashion of their G1 counterparts, it's like they can't do it. They don't even know how to make Transformers look like the characters that many of us grew up with. Because you really think about it, if you're if you're an old school Transformers fan like we are, like, you want that on screen. You know,
Right.
people who read Captain America and Spider-Man or Batman, they want what they read in the comic books to be brought to life on screen. And so when
They can
Transformers,
do it. Why can't Transformers?
you know, Transformers brings vehicles that turned
Transformers.
into mangled metal robots instead of actually looking like the characters, they don't.
Yeah.
And you know, and they don't even bring in characters that we know. They make up new ones. Mudflap. I mean, granted, Skids is a G1 character, but that's not G1 Skids. You know, they it's almost like they just went as they go, and all the Decepticons, except for the ones that were visibly like you can make out who they were just like random nobodies. Like there was the Constructicon ones, there was like revived Bone Crusher, and then it was like a whole bunch of nobodies.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we got like 30 Decepticons, and it's like, well, the 30 Decepticons means nothing because they're nobody.
There's like 5 Autobots that can destroy all of these Decepticons, which I get. They have the help of the humans, but it's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like the numbers game doesn't add up.
Yeah.
You know, in the original show, it was the Decepticons were super powerful, so that's the reason why they had the smaller number, you know, versus like the Autobots themselves are, you know, it seems like that here now they're outnumbered, and the Decepticons are like weaklings. So it's kind of like it makes for a very weak, weak bad guys. Megatron himself, like at the end, is like he's subservient to the Fallen, and that bothered me because that's one of the major plot points in Transformers the movie. What were they saying? You know, what did Megatron say to Unicron? I belong to nobody. Like, how are you going to tell me that Megatron is going to bow to the Fallen?
Right.
I don't care if he's the original Decepticon. If Megatron wants to rule, he's
gonna do it on his own terms. He's not gonna be a disciple of anybody. And he beats that into Starscream, but yet then 5 seconds later he flies up to the Fallen and is like, oh, my master, no, that's not Megatron.
Yeah. Like, Fallen should have been like his own villain. Like, it should have been like something else.
Or they could have not revived Megatron, and the Fallen was making all the calls. Where Starscream was saying, oh, well, somebody had to lead. Well, it wasn't you, Starscream.
It was the Fallen.
Yeah.
Right. And, like, Megatron knew everything that was going on when he gets revived.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of weird because, like, he flies up and...
The Fallen knew everything, too.
The Fallen... Yeah. Well, the Fallen knew everything because of Starscream. I mean, that's kind of different.
What was up with those hatchlings, too? The hatchlings... Where did they...
I don't know, because, like... That was something that kind of, like, made me scratch my head because...
They didn't have the cube or Allspark to create anything. So I guess maybe that's what the Fallen was giving some of his life force.
Maybe.
But it just made no sense why they had hatchlings, where they came from, what they were for. They didn't create...
How did Transformers...
I guess they want this army, but where did this whole thing come from?
But how did Transformers reproduce in the movie universe? Like, that's kind of like where you scratch your head and you go... It doesn't make any sense. Like, you watch the movie, and especially if, like, most people just watch the movies. You know, granted that there is the subsequent comic books that go along with it, and, you know, it's imagine trying to draw, like, the mangled metal Megatron, you know, in a comic book, and it just looks weird.
I would get so angry trying to draw him.
Comic books, apparently, there might be some extra storytelling, but if you're just watching the movies... You're not going to know, like, how do they reproduce? How do alien robots reproduce? Because we talked about the only way they bring life to the planet is with the cube. And now that the cube is gone, they don't have it, but now the energy is transferred. So, which leads to a plot hole that gets even bigger, with the third movie. But overall, I mean, this movie, it could have been so much better. Yeah. It really could have. I think that they dropped the ball with this one. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that, they had the writer's strike, but, so it was a bad script, and, bad, stupid, crude jokes overall. I think the movie, like, it failed in a lot of ways. The only really good thing that came out of it was the action sequences. And again, which is all in your face. You can't see what's going on. You're sitting there scrambling to try and figure out, like, which robot is who. A lot of stupid slow-mo, a lot of unnecessary explosions. The big explosion of, like, all explosions as they're running through the desert.
Yeah.
You know,
there's fireworks.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it was. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I mean, I can't give this movie a high rating.
No.
You know, I would only recommend it to, you know, to watch, if you're going to watch it through once because you're a Transformers fan, and then maybe watch just the action sequences after that. If you've already seen the movie once before, only watch the action sequences, because that's
or just
about
don't
it.
watch it at all.
Yeah, or skip
If
it.
you see it once, you're good.
Pretty much. You know, I mean, I did like Jet Optimus. I did think that was cool at the end.
Yeah.
I like that, because that was something that drew back to Transformers Armada, which is one of the good things that came out of Transformers Armada. I know you and I have a very poor opinion
of love for that
of the
series.
Unicron trilogy. Yeah, just so. I hope you've enjoyed our little movie review. We're going to continue on with Transformers: Dark of the Moon next. You know, so stay tuned for that. I hope if you like this video, be sure to thumbs up and subscribe. Be sure to check out my other videos. Also check out the review that came out before for the first Transformers movie. And we're getting geared up for Transformers: The Last Night. So, as always, guys,
Until next time.